The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show as we discuss 1977 or 78. I've seen both. The Girl with the Red Scarf as we begin what I'm calling the World Film Project. Or pretentious project, I guess, if I'm going to call it that. More on that in a second, but let me welcome my co-host for the next couple weeks on this journey. You know her from The Hollywood Reporter, E! News, and Culture Us. She also has a mug with her name on it in this studio. The dark goddess of the underworld, Sharareh Drury.
Hello, Brandon. How are you? I'm coming from the underworld. Can't you tell?
I know. Rise up.
It looks like an office. That's how the underworld will look.
It's really boring. It looks like normal living space, office spaces.
There are little like demons that are like kind of like doing some dirty work down below here. You can't see them. They're very camera shy.
Outside the windows, fire. Just
it's absolute. I am currently baking, but it's okay.
Baking cookies? No, baking myself.
Baking evil plants.
There we go. Oh my gosh. So welcome here. I'm happy to have you on board with this little journey. And it's something that was brought up to me early on, before, like right around when the show started, about doing... It's not the first time we've covered a non-United States film on this show.
Right.
I hate calling them foreign films. I really don't like that because it just means...
You could just say non-domestic maybe because it's just not...
For us, non-domestic. Yeah, I always think that's really dumb because I'm like, you mean not U.S.? Like that's...
Typically just not in English mostly and not in the U.S.
Right, yeah.
Or international, probably global films.
Yeah, global films. They're movies. Like, yeah.
They're movies.
It's like, yeah, best foreign to the U.S. film. Like, because like the Oscars has been working on changing that. I noticed this year they called it something else.
Basically, not America.
Not America. And you've been on before when we did Persepolis. I did Shin Godzilla. That's definitely not the United States one. But this one, my goal here with it is to discuss films from countries that we don't typically talk about when it comes to not domestic U.S. films, like Italy. I think we know a lot about Italy. We've got, Fellini. There's all the schlocky stuff that I love from the late 70s and early 80s. French, we know the New Wave. We know all that stuff. We know Japan, China. But there's some countries in there that's like, well, they make their own films too.
Yeah, of course.
And not just the best foreign film category nominees from a year or winners, but even though some of those get forgotten, they're a hot minute.
Other countries have hits and absolute trailer trash films. Like every country has its like slew of like, these are really, and I feel like maybe a lot of countries are lucky because more often than not, you're probably being recommended like the best of the best and not like the national treasure level, like Nicolas Cage.
Well, you're getting the best. Yeah, you're getting like the best of the best that would translate over to the United States. Well, that's the thing too,
and like that we would understand versus like films that are so deeply embedded in like that country's culture that maybe for most like Western watchers, like we're not going to get.
Yeah. Humor changes city to city, let alone country to country. And
very true.
That sometimes translate. But what I love about checking it out and stuff, and I like the deep cuts for these countries because I want to get in their mode. I want to know what film means to them. Like, you see Bollywood, that is not like anything we do here, and people go, wow, shucks. And maybe they don't even watch it for the right reasons or with the correct lens to see those things. And I always like finding a new way to watch a movie or finding a new understanding of watching a movie. That's why I have genres that are beholden to me or something like, but I don't like to like stay strict to a genre. I notice nowadays we have like, I'm just horror. horror person. That's all I do. And I'm like, cool, you can put yourself in that corner, but you got to I really think should be well-rounded with film and stuff too. You could be a horror expert. I like to see things as ones and zeros. Like all these people will like dog a soap opera. I don't like Westerns or straight dramas, but
I guarantee that like people would probably, if you opened your minds up a bit to cinema. I mean, and then I feel like number one is the whole reason why, if you really like movies and if you really, really do, I mean, you're willing to probably try a little bit of everything. Like if you're a foodie, you're willing to try a little bit of all things. Right. Maybe not everything is your taste, but I also will say, at least from my point of view with like films, it's like, maybe I don't love all Western films, but I guarantee that there's a couple in there that I am 100% into, like Will Smith's Wild Wild West. Okay. I'm kidding.
There you go. Jim West, Desperado.
Exactly. So you know what I mean? Like there's a little something, or like you might not love all horror films. Maybe Get Out spoke to you because of like its cultural context. So like there's a lot of different films out there to be enjoyed. And I think when it comes to international films, like there's so much. And I think like to open like your mindset, like honestly for me doing with this film, The Girl with the Red Scarf, I don't think I've ever seen a Turkish film. I don't think I have.
I can't recall. I have sseen. Yeah. I think I saw Turkish Superman or something like that, or Spider-Man. That'd be interesting. One of them. I think it was. There's like Turkish Star Wars, Turkish Superman. Like they couldn't afford to show those movies in their country, so they started making their own back in the day, which is crazy.
See that totally happens too, and But I mean, I'm really excited to talk about this film because for me, being Iranian, there were some similarities in terms of like what people look like, what they dress like, even tiny bits of language that was familiar. So like, that's like my that for me, that's gonna be like my instant connection. But I'm sure as we'll talk about it, I mean, there's so many layers to this film that I feel like people would enjoy because the romance, the drama, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So we're going to start with a movie from Turkey today. That's our first country. And then we're going to move on to a different country and then one more country before wrapping it up. One of them, the last one we're doing, is kind of like, it's not that it isn't well known, but we wanted to mark it off our list because we both love the movie and we talked about doing it before. So when we get there, we'll hit that. But our first film is from Turkey. It is The Girl with the Red Scarf.
Elimden tutuversen benimle gelir mi?
Seninim işte. Alıp götürsene beni.
Mutluluk bu muydu? Mutluluk neydi ben bilmezdim. O vardı bir zamanlar. Onu sevmiştim. Sevgi o muydu? Sevgi neydi? Coşkun akan dere, sonbahar rüzgarıyla ürperen yapraklar, cama vurup dağılan yağmur damlaları, bir yürek çarpıntısı. Sonunda coşkun dere durulur. Yapraklar kurur, dökülür. Yağmur diner, güneş çıkardı. Sevgi neydi? Karın geldi.
Ne?
Çocuğun var. Ben de sevdim ama...
Çok hızlı gidiyorlar. Şoförün birini gözüm tutmadı. Birinin yan camı kırık. Samet üşür. Çoğu durmadı zaten. Hemen gitmenizi istemedim. Oğlunuz mu? Oğlum.
Allah'ım bana yardım et.
Asya. Asya. Asya. Asya!
It's directed by, here we go. Forgive me if you are from Turkey and I'm about to murder names. I'm not fluent in it, and I did not have the time to research proper pronunciations. So I apologize.
It's all good. I am Iranian, and I might mess this up to just a smidge, but go ahead, Brandon. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, The Girl with the Red Scarf is directed by Atif Yilmaz.
I feel like it could be Yilmaz or Yilmaz. I feel but like you'll see that there are characters in this film where like the spelling of it is not exactly the way that I would like that they'd pronounce it. At least to us here who speak English, I would not know. I would not know how to pronounce some of these. But
right,
yeah,
it's written by Ali Ozgenturk and based on a novel by Shingiz Atamatov. I don't know. And starring Turkan Sore, Kadir İnanır, and Ahmet Mekin. Mekin? You tell me. I like
can't
feedback.
tell you. I
like
wish,
feedback, people. Get mad at me, comment on the episode. But I can tell you.
Let us know how to pronounce it so that we know for future for things. But this is one of those where so it can be a little tough. All countries have like some names. I mean, I still can't pronounce my name.
Yes.
And it's my name. Sharareh. I mess it up often. So
all good. This is the story of a dilemma between a woman's love and her logic. Asya, a young girl with a strict mother, meets İlyas, who is a womanizer city man, and they quickly fall in love. They get over the hardships and have a quick, happy marriage. However, after he helps a man one night, İlyas' life changes forever, and he leaves Asya and Samet, their son, for another woman and doesn't come back. After that, Asya takes their son and goes away without knowing where she's heading until a familiar hand reaches her to help selflessly. And this movie is like a stone cold classic from what I could tell in Turkey. Like this is one of their big films. Like this is, and it's a novel and it's so popular. Like it's been not redone, just adapted again. I think there's like a mini series. There are other countries that have made this movie, but this is like the one. This is from what I gather.
it makes sense. It's incredible for what it is. There were moments watching this where I was getting really excited. I was really happy, elated. There are moments where I was yelling at the screen, like, what are you doing? Mostly at İlyas, which we'll talk about.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's dramatic.
I really liked this movie. I was like, all right, we had with what we had available with us to watch, we had some massive subtitle issues, but it was still really enjoyable. Like it
so
was
really good.
Beyond. I mean, film can speak beyond language. I mean, beyond vocal language. It's very visual. The actors really, as I think you mentioned off air, they emote quite well.
Yes.
It's enough to get that across. It's funny how none of this movie takes place in like any kind of area you'd call like pretty or a looker.
No, it's like in a rock quarry.
Muddy but
it's muddy. There's a lot of mud.
At the same time, it's like beautiful in a way. It's weird.
Well, there were like some moments. There was like that forest. There's like a little forest river brook scene that's really pretty, but I mean, at the same time, I kind of appreciate that because it's staying true to these people and their lifestyles, more likely like where they would live.
It's grounded.
Like
Yeah.
If you're a guy working a truck, or if you're a girl coming from a not very affluent family, that's more likely where you would be. Like you're not living it up in the city. Mm-hmm. So it makes total sense.
Yeah. And it has to do with like, jobs that are very specific to where they're at. He's
right.
We meet up with İlyas. He's a truck driver that just hauls between certain places every once in a while. And a woman catches his eye during a trip, and basically he wants her attention. She's supposed to be in an arranged marriage situation with her strict mother.
Right.
So we get this thing with this guy who's he's having this thing with the woman who works in the office, the controller at the shark place already. Before we meet this. Blondie, yeah.
Blondie. That's who because she just, I think it's Dilek is like her name in the film, but I call her Blondie because she was so frustrating to me. I was like, I don't even want to acknowledge her.
She's like, it's crazy because she's like 92% monster. There's like a good 8% of her, and
there's like a little tiny part of her that's okay.
And you get mad at her because of that 8%. It's like, don't even, just go all in. Like, don't. You know what you're doing. But yeah, he's got adversaries at his work that he has, and then he's got this woman, and he meets Asia. Is it Asia, right? And basically, like, they fall for each other, but it's a weird dichotomy where he's falling for just purely her beauty and the difficulty of acquiring her, and she's just likes his affection.
I don't know how else to say this. Like, it's very young, almost immature emotions because, I mean, for him, he's just kind of like, ooh, she's a pretty girl. Don't know who she is. Maybe a little forbidden because she seems to be a little more on the conservative side compared to like the woman that's working at his office. And, she's got a mother. She's still living at her parents' house. She's not living on her own like Blondie is. Like, Blondie's got her own like apartment and stuff. This is a young girl who, and I apologize because I'm not really sure if they clarified it in the film, like the age difference.
Yeah.
I assume they're somewhat close in age, but culturally, I could understand where she could be like late teens, very early 20s, and he could be older because he's obviously been able to leave home, get a job, that kind of a thing. And I say culturally because, I mean, the closest I can relate to with my culture is like, that's very common for like younger girls, to still be like in the matchmaking phase at home. And then they get set up with a guy who has a job somewhere who's going to like, she can have babies with and like, set up a home. But that's basically why I think Ilyas is falling for Asya is because she's somewhat forbidden fruit and she's beautiful and like hard to get to. Whereas like, like for her, this is probably one of the first guys she's ever really been able to pursue on her own, not through a matchmaking process. Like she does not want to be in a match. She doesn't want to do the matchmaker thing. Like, I feel it's like she wants to like, there was like that scene where she like runs to like the dirty water and the mud and covers her face in mud so that she doesn't look presentable.
Right. Yeah.
To someone. Cause she's just like, I'm going to ruin my matchmaking situation. But with Ilyas, I think it's hard to say like these are mature emotions because he's going after her for some kind of ridiculous reasons. Like, she's just hot. And she's going for him because she has no other options. And he's intriguing. He's also forbidden to her. So that's kind of what draws them to each other is they shouldn't be going to one another. Technically, I guess, like culturally speaking, like he should not be going after a girl from a village who's currently being set up to be with someone else. That would be disrespectful technically. And then for her, she should be supposedly following her parents and like her mom's matchmaking setup that she's got.
Right.
But they get drawn to each other. And I mean, she kind of plays a little hard to get with him.
Oh, yeah, she does. Yeah.
First. She's definitely playing it. But that's like the interesting draw, I feel like, to each other is that neither one of them should be with the other, technically, at the start.
Well, it's funny, all these cute moments, like we mentioned, like having this like rock quarry, this indistinct, there's like no distinct like areas like, we met by the fountain at the rock quarry. It's just a hill of rocks. And that's where she like stands. Yeah. She like watches him because I think she missed times trying to accidentally run into him again. And he like has given up and goes just to the house to be like, look, I'm into your daughter. What's going on here during the arranged marriage day?
Right.
But yeah, it's very cutesy with that. And they have the passion. They make, because she ends up going with him. She takes the truck, they leaves, and they have that Titanic window moment, which may be more a...
Oh my God, I almost forgot about that.
Maybe the Titanic is a girl with a red scarf moment. You never know. I mean,
I was going to say, I think someone stole that scene, because
I wouldn't be surprised. I
would not be surprised, and it's very like... And that actually shocked me a bit. I was like, we are getting intense immediately, but it's also kind of like... You can already, the minute that happened, I was like, this is going to spell this is already starting to set up so much drama for these two.
Yeah.
Because she went off with a guy. And, in this kind of setting that we're watching, like, she would traditionally not be able to do that or like it would be shunned for doing that, which, as I'm sure like we're going to talk about, I mean, like that's kind of like the repercussions of those two coming together is that, they want to be together. And she ends up like getting shunned by like her mom because like they go and get married and no one's at her wedding. Like that she knows really her family doesn't come. Her mom doesn't come. Her mom's basically like, you're dead to me.
Right.
Like I do not have a daughter.
And she
named,
means it.
Asa.
Like,
yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah. Her life like has to become like all him. Like, and it's really interesting because you point that out. It's like, oh yeah, the wedding was just her and his coworkers and his like
like his like weird coworkers. Exactly.
Yeah, and it seemed like all him, like all like they went from having this like this fiery romance to like almost like she became his property then, like more so than
I mean essentially, yeah. I mean, because they get married. And there are like moments at her wedding where I can tell that she's, upset because I mean, she's she's not really surrounded by a lot of people that she knows. And then but then it's like, you can see her trying to be happy because she's with him. Right. And then the movie, it's like, bing, bang, boom, pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
Baby. Like, she's just like that's, and it's frustrating to watch as like a woman watching it because you're just like, okay, so that was like, that's it. Like her like plot points are like, she's a girl, she gets chased by this guy, she gets married, and now she's having a baby. But then we kind of start to see how like it went from basically hot and heavy romance to now he has to be like a dad and a husband, and that's not exciting for him anymore. Right. Now she's no longer the forbidden girl with the red scarf. She's his wife with a kid.
Well, it's almost like she's a tag along now, but it's like, dude, you're all she had. Like, and we don't see that, like, the only other woman we really see in this and that has the opportunity to have a career is Blondie. We don't know, like, is it like, I guess now she's married, she stays at home, but I feel like if Blondie got married, she would still be working. Like, it's...
Right. It's interesting because she's by herself, unmarried, has a job. And I mean, obviously like down the road in this film, like we'll get to that part, but like, like she, Asya also gets a job at some point. So it's not like these women can't have jobs and be like unmarried, but it's just like interesting that like, that's kind of like what her trajectory goes from. And she's like, she has this like beautiful romance. It's wild and it's crazy and it's hot and heavy. And then all of a sudden it's like, she's married. And it's like I guess like this kind of starts to hit like where the drama really starts to go is that, I mean, they are still in love. Like when she's pregnant, he's really excited about her to be pregnant. And then the night that she's supposed to have her baby is when basically shit starts.
Yeah, this is the turning point. Massive. It's very poetic how this all happens, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's driving home. There's like a downpour. And of course, he's surrounded by rocks and mud. So this is not a great situation for him. He finds people in trouble.
Yeah, he saves people's lives.
Basically saves people's lives. And he obviously gets back and like, she's like, where the hell have you been? Like, she has the baby and he's not there. But this is where I was like so confused in the film. I was like, so this guy, took some time to save some people and his work got mad at him?
Well, I don't think so. No, he saved those people. The one guy saw him from his work, saw him going the wrong way or something on the road, and the guy that didn't like him. So he saves these people's lives. He misses his son's wedding, but he gets back and they take his truck from him. And but he just accepts that because he has a fear of the Blondie or something. He doesn't want to have to beg for her or some weird thing. But we haven't mentioned that him and his truck have a relationship. Like it's
God, that's right.
He talks to it, and she would talk to it too because she knew that it was something he loved. But on the night he's given a son, he also loses his best friend, the truck. But yeah, it's really weird.
It's such an interesting.
It's really weird.
Relation. like I understand people liking their cars a lot, but it's like he really likes his truck.
He really does. The big red truck. But he doesn't tell his work about what he was doing. And I think it's because his work is like, no, you leave people go or some danger. I don't know. But that's a really weird, didn't quite get thing. Because I'm like, why wouldn't you just say, I save people's lives?
Right. I mean, I remember even looking at the description to understand it. And it's basically saying that because he stopped to help stranded bystanders, he is delayed.
Yeah.
So maybe he was supposed to bring something back, but
cost them
at the end of the day, his work is very like, no, now you have to do like, what is it, like repair work? Like he has to now do other things. And this is, I think, leading up to like the scene where like I was like going to scream at the TV, is that his wife, obviously probably concerned about him because he comes home and he's super upset. She goes to his work to try to help.
Yeah.
Like she goes to his work to do something good. And little Blondie goes and tells him. And this is where I could maybe understand maybe if the side chick, Blondie chick, is like trying to, I don't know what her game was, to like go to him and be like, FYI, your wife is here. Yeah. Like just maybe she was trying to tell him in a nice way, like, hey, like your wife's here. But I also don't know if she was trying to like be like, oh, like your wife's here. Like she's coming into your workplace. Why is she here? But either way, he does not act in any form rational. He goes and gets mad at her. Yeah. For showing up and literally decks her in the face.
Right.
Like slaps
in
Asya.
Front of everybody. Yeah.
In front of everyone, her lips bleeding. It's like full toxic masculinity rage. It's and then it continues with this. There's like this guy, I guess, who I don't remember what his name is in the film, but he essentially had been kind of messing with him earlier, calling him like the Istanbuler or something. Right. He comes up to him and he's basically like, you're a womanish coward. Or like something like that. Basically you're such a coward to make your wife come to work to talk for you. Yeah. Even though that's obviously not what happened. She came on her own decision to talk.
I was happy for her. I was like, yeah, you go do that. Yeah, there you go.
Like she should, like, it was awesome for her to come and try to help and like advocate for her husband. And she ends up getting slapped. And then her husband gets into another like brawl. And there's like a moment. This is like where I feel like the cinematography and like the directing of this film is so good, because you're having all of this chaos happen with these men fighting. And Asya's sitting over here and her lips bleeding. And she looks up and she can see like the blonde woman, and she's like an evil villain in like a Bond film or something. Yeah. Like kind of like looking over at all of this chaos. And I feel like Asya starts to realize, holy shit, like there's some stuff going on that I don't know about. Right. She's over it. And I was like, this is one of those moments where I was just so heartbroken, because Asya is in so many ways such a pure, like she's purely good. Like I cannot see anything bad about her in this film.
No, not at all.
She's such a kind human and so innocent. And this is kind of like her, as sad as it is, her like adulting moment. Because she really thought the world of her husband. And the thing that's so messed up is like she trusted him, right? She puts all of this trust into a person. She leaves her family for him, gives up all of her life for him, has a son with him. And he's going to slap her in front of people and like disrespect her like that. Right. Like she don't deserve that.
No. Yeah. And she has a hell of an arc in here. That's a lot of it on the acting too. Like a lot of it comes through from the actor, and she is, and I guess her, and I think the guy who played Ilyas were like huge stars at the time. This was like,
I could see it. They're super attractive. Yeah. So like this would make total sense for them to be big stars.
They were humongous stars in Turkey put together. And she reminded me, like, if you'd have been like, oh, that's Ana de Armas' mom right there. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because they got like an eye thing. I was like, it looks like.
No, she's gorgeous. She's absolutely stunning. And it's like the character does such, I mean, like the character is doing a lot of work, but that actress is incredible, because there's so many moments where she doesn't need to, I mean, like I said, we were having issues with like the film when I was watching it, because I had captions for mine and the captions sometimes didn't match. I didn't need it in a lot of these moments, because she was doing such great work with just her body language and how she's feeling and expressing with her eyes. I was heartbroken to see her kind of look at Blondie and be like, okay. And then she basically, this is the part it's like fuzzy for me. It's like, she basically realizes, okay, so this guy is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, she goes home and he doesn't come home.
No.
He goes with Blondie, and I think eventually like wants to figure out where he is. And it's like her uncle, I think, is the guy that like comes to check on her. And she's just like, I need to know like where he is. Mm-hmm. And so she goes to basically Blondie's house.
That looks like a motel. Like
it was weird. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of maybe it did kind of look like a lot of the homes, and maybe this might have been like filming in budget too. I don't know what access they had to stuff, but yeah, it looked like a motel / apartment. It's like a one.
It wasn't a motel because there's like a kitchen and stuff, but like the outside looked like an old motel, but inside was like an apartment. Yeah,
it was busted. Blondie's house was busted, but she goes to check to see what's going on, and devastation again because she sees those two together.
And her and Blondie make eye contact at the window too. It's like, oh my gosh.
I was like, are they gonna fight? Like, is a cat fight? Like, what's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. And this is kind of one of those moments where it's like she could have confronted him.
Yeah.
She could have gone to the door. She could have knocked on. She could have called that woman out. But I kind of, in an odd way, it's like I almost like respect her decision to be like, you know what? It's not worth it. He is not worth it. I need to just do what's best for me and my child and peace out, which is terrifying because she has nothing.
Right.
Like she literally leaves and gets on a truck out of town.
Right.
And not like she just goes, I'm out, and she doesn't pack anything, nothing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just because it's her emotional state. She's just like, I literally cannot be here anymore. But
yeah,
she bounces because she's like, I'm over this. I can't deal with the devastation that this man has given me.
I think she's kind of afraid too that she would take him back if he showed up that night too.
God.
And I think she's trying to protect against herself because throughout the movie after this, she still has feelings and she doesn't know what her feelings are, but she thinks it's that she would want him back or that they could talk this through and make it away. So she's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of flashbacks to like moments in their life, like the hot and heavy Titanic red scarf truck scene where like they're making love. There's like her wedding scene that she's replaying in her head, like and it's like that makes sense because
like she's trying to erase the bad stuff and just keep the good. Yeah. Like it's a really cool visual way of conveying. Yeah.
And it makes sense because it's her true love. It's her first, it's her only love up until this point.
Right.
Like she's literally never been with anyone else. But that makes me think like story-wise, how both great and sad that is. Cause it's like, yes, this is like her true love. And of course she would think this way. But again, this is literally the only guy she's ever known.
Right.
So she doesn't have a lot to compare him to. She doesn't have a lot of options. Like a woman like her would not be like, she does not have where she lives, like the opportunity or the freedom to go places like restaurants or bars or go to school. Like she's not, and I'm not saying she can't go to school. Like there's no place for her to go to meet anyone, anywhere, except what her mother would arrange for her. So if this is like what she's got, what comes next in this film, I'm very happy for, because I feel like she finally starts to kind of, get more, like she gets more of an open mind in terms of like, okay, like there are other men.
Right.
That exists. I know it's not a lot, but like at least she gets to like start to have a bit of a choice.
Yeah.
In terms of things.
True. She hops a ride with the same person that her husband's life he saved, the people. As I call him, Turkish Bryan Cranston.
Oh my God, yes, he is. That's so accurate. Chemshit. That's the one name that like I know I can, because I like replayed it a few times. But Chemshit. Like she gets in the truck with him.
Yeah, and it's just it's weird, like because you're like, okay, I see how this movie's going, but how well this stuff plays out is incredible. Like it doesn't play out. It plays out like you're expecting, but not how you think. Maybe. Yeah. If that makes sense. So we have Ilyas who's away now with Blondie and then searching for to through this, but she ends up being with Turkish Bryan Cranston. Like she's trying to hitchhike, and he takes to her and like helps her eat with the kid, helps her have a place to stay, kid, and it just kind of it's not romantic like we saw in the first half of the film.
Well, yeah, that's very true. But this is kind of where, and this might be like one of the interesting aspects of this film, because she talks about this a lot. Asya does, like she has like a lot of like moments where she's just kind of like contemplating where she's at and contemplating who she's now that she's with Cemşit, and like he takes her in, he gives her a place to live that's safe. He watches over her son. He gives her food. When her son's sick, he gets a doctor and helps take care, and like
helps her to sleep so she can sleep and stuff. Yeah,
right. He starts to become a caregiver for them both, and the son initially starts calling him uncle for them, but she starts to kind of question what is love. And I thought this is one of the really important aspects of this film in terms of,
oh man, I love this because I think we have the same note in different, probably your words and mine.
Okay.
But go ahead.
It's just a lot of the film is about what is love. Like, what are the forms of love? How do people express love? What maybe, is there one that's better or worse? Because she's asking questions like, is love, I don't remember the exact quote, but she's kind of, like, is it happiness? Is it safety? Is it a friend holding my hand? Because she's like, I feel like she initially sees this guy as a caretaker and he's friendly, but then she starts to grow closer to him because he is providing for the first time, I think in a lot of ways, because I know Ilyas did do things like he married her and they had a house together and stuff, but I feel like there's both of them have different forms of the way that they appreciate Asya. I mean, granted, both of them are initially struck by her beauty, and it's kind of hard not to be. I mean, she's gorgeous, right. But I think, I don't know if it's because with Cemşit, it's that he is recognizing her when she is honestly at her most vulnerable and painful, and he still like wants to be with her, and he still like loves her. I don't know. I find that interesting that like, and also she's got baggage, literally. She's like running away from another husband. Right. Like she's got a kid and he's willing to take them both in. And that's beautiful. I think that he's willing to do that. But it is interesting that like the film's kind of going into all the different ways that love exists. And she kind of has to decide which one does she want.
Right. Like I have right here, great philosophical pondering on the definition of love, different types on display, arranged marriage, fun, adventurous, lust, care. Like, yeah. And I think on Cemşit's side is he's taken with her, but I'm not sure if he's like in love with her to start, but I think he also goes through a thing. He realizes it sooner that he wants to be with her than she does him. Yeah. But I think his biggest worry and where he's hesitant and he wants to make sure that he's appreciating her and her son for who they are, not just filling a hole in his life, because he had a wife and a son that died. And he is trying to be sure that he's just not subbing them. He's actually wants to be there for them, not just, oh, well, that can plug a hole. And I think that's a concern with him that maybe not so obvious, but it's kind of there. But I think that's a concern with him and why. And they're both kind of in this. I've got this.
They both are dealing with a lot of grief too. Like she's dealing with this grief of like so much. Like she doesn't have a family. Like she couldn't go back to her parents or her mom if she wanted to, right? Because they've like disowned her. So she really doesn't have anything. She's now like technically like a single mom. That's super hard to deal with. She eventually needs to get like a job. Like she needs to start taking care of her kids somehow. Right. I have a quote written down that he tells her that like when he finally reveals like, like he lost his wife and child, and he basically tells Asya like, I thought I'd die of grief, but like work initially kept me going, just working in tunnels or whatever the work that he was doing. But then he goes, Summit and you, like your son and you have reconnected me with life.
Right.
such a good line. And it's said so beautifully because he's just like, he was just going through the motions. And I think anyone who's probably dealt with grief can probably understand that. Like you're just going through your day-to-day motions, but you're not really living. And he seems so like alive and reconnected, which makes sense now when like, as the movie, like kind of like as we start to get near the end, he starts to get really worried that she will choose to go back.
Right.
And it's really sad to watch because he's having so many beautiful moments with her and the son, but he is constantly wondering, like, are they going to leave me? Mm-hmm. And so like, obviously like there's like a period where like she's just working and living with them, but they eventually, this was interesting to me. It's like, so they eventually they get married.
Right.
And I wasn't sure. I don't think the film really hit on it, and it's fine. Cause like, I mean, there's only so much that you can do in a film, but I was like, so was she like married twice? Like, did she like, was there, cause I don't think there was like a divorce.
No.
That happened. So, but I don't know like how much in these kinds of small towns they
can't check the record, really. Yeah.
There's nothing to check. So she's just like, yep, I'm going to marry this guy. And I remember she's kind of thinking to herself, I'm not having a big wedding like I had with Ilyas, and just, it's me, this guy in a courtroom, basically. And that again starts to create like this, like, she's like, okay, so is this better? And I don't know, it's interesting because it's like, so yeah. What would have been better for you to have been with the guy that you had the somewhat, big wedding? I mean, I know not everyone was there, but like she had the whole wedding and the flurry of romance, but look what he did to her.
Yeah.
Look how he treated her versus this guy is giving you a home. He's caring for your son. He is not going off with blondies. And maybe in a lot of ways he's more mature because he's had a wife and a child. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to say this. He's a grown ass man. Like
he's not some schmoozy romantic. He's not
a womanizer from Istanbul or wherever this guy came from. He's
a meat and potatoes guy that, like.
He's a Bryan Cranston that you've been looking for.
Yep.
I feel like the difference between those two is that watching those two in all of their scenes together, there's a lot of red flags that I got from Ilyas just because he does represent, I mean, he is a womanizer. He does have a lot of toxic masculinity. It's just not great. I mean, absolutely. I mean, of course, this is, the film was made in like the 70s and I can understand some of these topics. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm curious, like what was the goal in terms of like showing some of these moments, like a woman getting hit by her husband, like, no, do not go back. Absolutely do not go back is what I'm thinking in my head. But I don't know if she is so obsessed with her first love, she might be willing to forgive it. And that's kind of like, as the movie is coming near its end, like that's the big decision that she has to kind of start to make. Like, do I want to go back?
Right.
Or not? Well, so it's tough. It's tough to watch.
And on the opposite side of things with Ilyas, like if he's so longing for her as he likes to convey and stuff, then why is he still hanging around Blondie? Like he has to have that still.
Question.
Like is he? Like if she comes back, then he'll leave Blondie. Like then you don't really care about her that much, as much as you are.
I mean, he obviously did it because literally, so to go back, I mean, there's a moment where the moment where Asya shows up and sees it there together, and she sees a moment where Blondie goes and kisses Ilyas's chest, and she's like, I've never kissed my husband on the chest. Like she's getting super upset about it. They make eye contact. Blondie comes and sits down. They're having tea together, and she tells him, "Your wife was here. Your wife was here." Does he go running out? Like, I mean, I know he like looks out the window to see.
Yeah.
But I would, if he was, I mean, he's not decent, but if there was an ounce of decency left in him, he would have gotten out, left the house, gone home. Like, but it's too late.
Yeah.
She's already pieced out. I mean, and it's also the fact that I could get this wrong. I feel like they were saying in the film that he didn't just go for like a night, like he was gone for months.
Yeah, and he had been quiet at home during that time too. He wasn't very communicative while he was at home before he disappeared after that.
Right. So he just, and that kind of again hits on why I'm obviously Team Chimshit and not Team Ilyas, because Ilyas is, I don't know, he's just an immature guy. Like he's not he is not grown in any sense, because he takes any hit against him, like a guy making fun of him, his work doing stuff to him. He's so aggressive.
Right. And when he returns,
a lot of aggression.
When he returns, he's dangerous. He's very scary when he comes back and off the handle.
Exactly.
And it's like, he didn't change. He was this guy the whole time. Like,
exactly. Oh, that's right. When he comes back, or when he
gets in a wreck and he is brought for help and bandaging into Asia and
that moment.
House. And it's like, oh, like first this movie's like, oh, when she gets in the back and it's like she's hitchhiking with, Chimset. It's like, oh, that's a big one. And then when he appears at their home, then you're like, oh.
The moment when they all realize like they are in this together, it's because that's right. Ilyas, probably because he was out drinking or something, he gets in a bad car accident. Chimchit finds him, and it's like the role reversal, right? Now, like that guy's saving his ass. So like he brings him to his house. He's bandaging him up. And there's like these few moments where it's like Asia's going around the house, like, and hasn't realized her freaking first husband's in the house. When they all like hit, I was expecting a fight to happen right then.
I was expecting
it. And she's like crying in corners. Like, what am I going to do? And once again, this is why I am Team Chimchit, because he handles it like a boss. He's like
calm.
He's like, he even asks himself, he's like, what should I do? Throw this guy out? No, I'm just going to patch him up. He patches him up. He makes sure that he's okay. And you really start to see like Asya like unravel, because she's sitting there like bringing him. I think she brings him her first husband like a shirt at some point. Like she's cleaned his stuff for him, and she's just like completely upset. And then there's the moment when not just Ilyas realizing my wife is here. She's obviously moved on. Like she doesn't give a shit about me. My son is here, and my son thinks this guy's daddy.
Yeah. And
big drama.
I think her guilt's lost in something like, I owe my son a chance to have a relationship with his actual father.
True.
But
yeah, she probably feels like, that needs to happen.
Chimset's just like, I'm going to sit back here. As much as it hurts, if she chooses to go back to him and they move, so be it. But it's her wishes, not mine. And like he's chill dude. While Ilyas is like, I'm going to fight at everything to restore what I screwed up.
Yeah, like you screwed it up. And not only once, like 100 times. She's okay with him like coming back. She's okay with him coming back, and he does come back or not. I might be messing up the timeline a bit. It's like he's around for a bit.
Yeah, it's like a couple days. Yeah. But
then the big thing is that maybe he could have salvaged himself. Maybe he could have fixed his reputation in some way. But when he takes his son, like there's a moment where they're playing and he takes his son, like takes him. Like, basically, it's kidnapping. I know it's his son, but he's taking him away from his mom. Didn't ask for permission. The kid's crying. Asya and Chimchit are like running, trying to figure out what's happening. And this is where I was like, this final moment. It's like, they all get reunited. She gets her son back, and Ilyas is basically asking, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for everything. Be with me. And Chimchit is watching it like in a rearview mirror of a car. He can see like that they're having a moment. The thing that I feel like maybe I have to rewatch it again, or maybe this is like the point of the film to end it on this note, is I actually don't know who she really wanted to be with. Because to me, it was this really weird moment where it's like, she's staring at Ilyas, and it's hard. Like, you can't break that first love connection. Right. But then she looks at Chimchit, and her son runs to him and is like, daddy, like Baba, like goes in like Baba June and goes to hold him. And I think that for her maybe, I don't know if like that's what it is for her. She realizes whatever love I'm feeling between these two, I need to go to the one maybe that's quote safest and one that's going to provide the best life for my son. Because I remember there's like moments in the film where she's talking about like, is my heart beating a lot for someone or not? And I think she's realized, and maybe that's like symbolic of, who do I internally like feel the most for? But I don't know. I don't know if like you got that from the ending. I wasn't sure who she was going to go to.
So the
way she was looking at them.
This finale in The Road is fucking fantastic. Like top to bottom, this is a great all-time movie ending just because this isn't a looker cinematography wise, but they nail this. Like they have the people set good, the angles are great just to show the spacing. It gives a sense of danger. What's going to happen here? You don't know.
I was so afraid a car crash was going to happen or something. I was so worried for that kid.
So I got a lot of stuff from this, and maybe this will help you see where I come from on when I think she's with what happens with Asia during this. But when they bid farewell, when she says goodbye to him, they have a lot of still frames when he's leaving.
Right.
And it's like they're the photographs as she had it in her mind of Ilyas.
Mm-hmm.
And she was originally only keeping good moments, but now these ones are featuring tears and disappointment and like showing that these kind of memories can stay too. Because before, whenever she would remember Ilyas, it was always the wedding, like we said. It was the Titanic moment. But now she can remember that's why we are not together. And also,
that makes sense.
Also, when we first met her, she was going to be in an arranged marriage. Like, it has to be this way because this is how our life is, this is what we do. Mm-hmm. With her son, Ilyas doesn't have to be his father because he was born from him. Mm-hmm. Chimset can be him. It doesn't have to be arranged because it was preset because she had Ilyas' baby. He can be raised by Chimset. So I think all of that comes to her in the Road finale where she can finally accept these things she may have pondered and break away like she did in the beginning, but in a much more informed and mature sense with Chimset. So that's what I grabbed from
that makes sense. I mean, obviously, I'm very glad with the choice that she made.
Yeah.
I think would have been a horrible decision to go back to this womanizing asshole. Like,
who's just gonna keep going on, and who knows if he'll show up to hang out. She's probably like, hey, you can come by once a month, pick him up.
He probably
go
won't.
Down, and he won't. He'll just disappear.
He'll go and have a kid with Blondie or something. I don't know, wherever she is. But it's an incredible ending for honestly such an incredible film. I was so enthralled with it.
Yeah.
From start to finish. Like I said, I'm not surprised that this is one of the best films that a lot of people talk about in terms of like Turkish cinema, because it's such a beautiful story. It's dramatic. And it is interesting, like what you were saying about like the setting, like it's not the most lush, I don't know, quote, romantic scenery like that you would get, but you don't really need that because these people, like these actors, are so incredible in the work that they're doing. I honestly could have watched this with no subtitles subbing, nothing. I would have been fine.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's so emotional and in a good way. I don't know. It's sad because it's like, I think there are definitely some things about the film that when it comes to like the female characters, like I understand like both time frame, why things are the way they are, and culturally why things the way they are. But that's kind of why I'm glad that with Asya at the end, the decisions that she makes are, I think, to be logical and safe decisions. I'm really glad for that, because I was kind of worried it was going to be, because it could have been the other way. It could have been something super cheesy where she's like, no, I'm going to be with the love of my life. And like, there's some cheesy, like,
yeah. Luckily, it wasn't the reality bites of Turkish cinema. I'll say that.
Right. Exactly. I think she makes a smart decision, because it could have been done cheesy where it's like they get together and like they are somehow happily ever after. But that I think would make no sense. Like, why would you go back to someone who basically treated you so horribly?
Right.
And no matter how like much love she might have had, at the start, like you said, with all the good memories, there's the bad outweighs them.
Right.
I think massively. And it sucks. And I'm sure it's probably like, and I'm thinking of like this, I know it's a character, I know it's fiction, but it's like, I'm sure like in the long run, like that was always going to be the smart decision for her and her son. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's also, we talked about like, this movie trying to go through the definition of love, like love, and what is love and stuff. But there's also a key thing in here too that it's like this movie also shines light on moments in life, and how you respond to that moment can forever change the course of your future.
Oh gosh!
Because Ilias saving people and missing his son's birth and losing it, then loses his job, and then he ends up striking his wife when she attempted to salvage it because of how he reacted to him saving them people. Like that moment it's the pivotal moment of his life, is saving those people, and he just did not come through, and that changes everything. Like,
I mean, it could have gone in a complete I mean, that's a great way to put it, because I mean, he could have done the same thing. He could have, I mean, not the same thing. He could have started with the same thing, which was save people.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say his work gets mad at him, could have defended himself, could have been like, I would have done this decision again. I wanted to save people, but if you need to punish me, okay, fine. Put me on some other work. That's fine. Right. Be honest with his wife. Be like, look, because this is the other thing. If he had just come home and said something really bad happened at work, I don't feel great about it. I'm upset about it, but it sucks. And we're going to figure it out together as a couple. But he keeps stuff from her. He doesn't let her in emotionally at all. It's like, basically, it's like, I feel like Ilias, and this is like a big part of it, he really just sees her as this beautiful thing that he owns. But like when it actually comes to having some emotional depth with your wife, which is what you should have in a relationship, like you should be able to communication,
right?
Be able to talk to your partner. He doesn't do it. Yeah. He doesn't respect her enough to do that. Whereas I don't see that happening with her other relationship. Again, I know some of this is tough because it's, the time frame that this is set in and the culture that it's set in to a degree. Like I can understand that because I've seen in a lot of Iranian films, even up to today, or West Asian films that are like this, where depending on like the stereotypical dynamic, it's like, yeah, maybe like there's those issues where like the husband doesn't, express everything to a wife, right, because there's the husband and then the wife's role in like a hetero relationship. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that he could have just been more open and honest with his wife. If he had just spoken, I don't know how else to say this, like men should have feelings. Like if he had just like been open about his feelings, right, not just all the good stuff, but like all of the bad stuff, probably would have worked out for him. Right. But instead he was a jerk who hit his wife.
Piece of shit, Ilias.
He's a piece of shit. I remember the second that like he hit his wife, I was like, I'm about to jump through the screen into this quarry and beat his ass. I was like, how dare you? Like, she's so good to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's messed up, but it's what you said is exactly true. I mean, it's so many moments. I mean, she has moments too. Mm-hmm. Like her decision to, when she decides to leave, first off, she could have just stayed in the marriage. She could have just stayed in a really shitty marriage, mm-hmm, and dealt with the fact that he had a woman on the side. Maybe she could have just lived with it. But I love that her decision was, no, not doing it. I'm not sitting around for this shit. I am leaving. And then to make which was a very scary decision, to be a woman by herself with a child, get in a car with like two other guys she doesn't know. She doesn't know who these people are at all. And then she takes that car to another town, I'm assuming, doesn't know anyone there, then walks around. It's like she was like walking around with her baby, like aimlessly. Yeah. And Jemshed finds her and is like, you can stay with me. That could have gone very wrong.
Right. Yeah.
That could have gone very wrong, but it's like she takes him up on the offer and immediately like locks the door after he pieces out. But obviously things work out okay. But it's like, yeah, those are all very brave. Honestly, I think that's why she's such an incredible character, because she goes through a lot of really horrible things and she has to be really brave about it, especially for a woman in her situation. She has to be super brave and go through a lot of scary things. And I think she makes a lot of hard, but probably wise decisions that it's not always about her. I know that she's always considering her child too. Mm-hmm. And like, what is going to set up the best situation for my kid? Because that's how a parent would think, I would think.
Totally. Yeah, no, I really love this movie quite a bit. Like, I'm surprised, like, it wasn't just like, oh, just trying to find a way into it for the show. Right. I was like, damn, this is really good.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I would absolutely recommend it.
High recommend.
High rec.
So good. The Girl with the Red Scarf, our first one we're covering here.
It's just really great. And I think now that I will say this, having watched it, I think as we were talking about at the start of this, I've been opened up a little bit and I want to look into these actors who played these roles and watch more of their work because they're all incredible.
Yeah.
The whole cast is great.
It's so good. Yeah. If you have a place where you can veg out and watch a tube, you could probably watch this movie. Just saying.
Right.
It's not on DVD or Blu-ray in the United States, and of course not streaming anywhere here. But you can find it tubularly. Just saying. What else? This is just something that we've taken in recently, read, watched, listened to, something like that. So, Sharareh, what else?
Just anything that I've been watching and indulging in outside of Turkish dramas. Let me see some stuff that I've been watching recently.
You know what? This is going to come out way later, but in the moment right now, it's just finished. But did you watch Loki?
Oh,
we could talk about Loki.
100% I watched Loki.
We watched Loki.
I am a Tom Hiddleston big time fan. Also, I'm a big time Loki fan because he's probably one of my favorite Marvel characters because I, Goddess of the Underworld, would of course love the God of Mischief.
There you go.
Chaos.
Yes.
100%. No, I love Loki. It's for 6 episodes, they did an incredible job. And it makes sense why I think it's the most watched of the MCU shows that have come out of WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, which I loved all of those too. But there's something about Loki that I think this is it. Because I was talking to my sister about this the other day because she was confused as hell. She was like, this is such a confusing show. I think what's interesting about Loki is it is a show for Marvel fans. There are so many Easter eggs. There's a lot of stuff that relates to, if you're into comics, reading all the Marvel comics, if you've really been into Loki, even before all the films and stuff came out, like that's a character that you really enjoyed.
Right.
You will love this.
Mm-hmm.
You will love this show. I do think like someone coming in out the gate who's never seen a lot of Marvel, I still think you would enjoy it for the story. But I do think being a Marvel fan, having watched all of the phases that have come out, all the films that have come out, it's great. Yeah. And Tom Hiddleston is great. And Owen Wilson in a Marvel show.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Fantastic.
Right. The aesthetic of the show was like my kind of sci-fi aesthetic. So I was like right at the get-go. I think one of the strongest points about Loki that I liked is somehow, like, I think this one flowed and start and finish the best of the 3 so far because it was like 3 acts. And like the first 2 episodes paired together really well, the middle 2 paired, and then the final 2 paired really well together and kind of told a nice cohesive story. Whereas I felt WandaVision was very front-loaded in the first half, and I didn't think the second half was as good as the first half. And then reverse Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I didn't think the first half was that good, but I thought it picked up and was better in the second half.
I was not that big of a fan of Falcon. It's sad because it's like I wanted to be a bigger fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I'll be honest, this is it, like for all of them, it's like, did the story make sense to me? I didn't really understand the plot that was going on in terms of I couldn't, this is the thing. Could I explain it to you right now? No, I couldn't explain to you what was going on. Other than that, there were people who were, considered refugees because they came back into existence after the snap. And there was something about trying to get back to their homes, or like there were border issues. Like I was so confused, and maybe I don't want to say that I'm dumb, but like I just didn't understand what the heck was going on. I am very excited that Sam Wilson is Captain America, and I do love the show's exploration of social issues and race. Incredible. I love that. But in terms of like the overall story,
I felt like some of the social issue stuff was just like lip service, and they didn't really sink their teeth into it too much. Yeah.
They could have done better.
You could have sank your teeth into a little bit more, but
Right. It was okay. It was okay. I would say that was probably, I would almost say it's Loki, WandaVision, than Falcon Winter Soldier for me. And and a mix of that is also because I think WandaVision, and this is like, I do think what's interesting across all of the shows a little bit, but probably more so with WandaVision and Loki, you have two characters. I think one thing, it's like, these are two characters that, you know, maybe we don't, I mean, we know a little bit about each of them. WandaVision, I think, was really interesting because she has been a somewhat background character to me.
Right.
What I love is that just Wanda herself, the Scarlet Witch, she's like the strongest, honestly, out of like, I think at this moment, I would say that she is the strongest, like, that exists out of all of the heroes because of her powers being Scarlet Witch. But what I loved the most about that show is how it explored grief, loss. And I think the timing of it coming out during a pandemic when we have dealt with so much grief and loss, there's a lot of existential questions that we're asking yourselves. That was great. Loki's kind of the same thing. I mean, I know there's a lot of other layers to Loki, but Loki is also dealing with like loss of self because he's like, okay, I can't even go back to my own timeline anymore. A lot of like identity crisis, like grief going on, like, what am I? Who am I? What is a Loki? Those kinds of questions. Love, kind of almost like Girl in the Red Scarf. Like, you know, what is love? Because he is starting to really love someone, even though it's technically himself. Right. That's fascinating. And then also just like the whole show exploring like time and like the impact of time. I thought it was incredible. And I also think the reason it's such a good show, they obviously had to be lining this up for the big villain reveal that is in the final episode.
Right.
Like, that's this,
which doesn't
that's
disappoint. Like, yeah,
it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, because you were like, you're like, they won't do that. It'll be another Loki variant behind it all. And they're like, okay,
no, it's Jonathan Majors being the most incredible King the Conqueror. Like, just incredible. So I'm excited about, because there's a second season already coming.
Right.
We already know that's where I don't think the other shows have not confirmed.
Well, Falcon and Winter Soldier probably won't get one because they're doing Captain America 4. So,
well, right. So that'll be theirs. And I don't know what WandaVision would have.
Well, they put WandaVision up for an Emmy for limited series. So
it's probably that's it.
Yeah.
So then Loki is what we get. But I'm excited that is going to lead to something else. And I'm just excited to see Loki continue through this. And like, obviously Kang the Conqueror is like an incredible villain, and I think he's going to be in the Ant-Man film that's coming out.
Quantumania. So it'll probably be a different variant of himself. And
God, a more terrifying one. That's for sure. But yeah, I loved it. That would definitely be like one of my recent binges, and I probably am going to binge it again.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to watch again. Like, I
kind of need to. There's like so many little things.
It's fun. It moved like, I don't know, like by the end of like, I like what you're saying with the WandaVision with the grief and stuff, but I'm like, it had that richness and then wound up being two CGI people throwing light beams at each other in the sky to end it. And I'm like,
I understand.
And it was funny because like Shazam made the joke about that stuff, and then they went and played it for serious.
Yep.
I was like, all right. But I overall liked it, but I was like seeing these things, and but yeah, the Loki, like, I just like to look at, like, it's like I'll pause it and just be like, the background.
I really loved
cool.
the style for Loki. I was like, I'm like into games like Fallout and stuff. It had a very retro kind of feel that I was into, and the fact that like Tom Hiddleston's Loki for like 99% of it is not in his Loki attire. He's just like dressed in like some slacks and a shirt. It's hilarious
because it's cheaper to make that way. I think that's part of why you put him that way.
Probably. But that's going to be the easiest Halloween costume, I swear.
At the Loki's dominated the convention I was at.
That's good. All the variants.
We had President Loki. It's just like all sorts of. There's normally a lot of Lokis. He's a very popular one, but Lokis were up. Harley Quinns were down. Deadpools were down. But yeah, Loki's.
I'm 100% being a Loki for Halloween this year. 100%. So they have got me on marketing there. 100%.
Awesome. You're gonna be alligator Loki? Is that?
I considered it. That would be a fun, because I would just get an alligator onesie. But I think I'm gonna be President Loki.
Oh, there you go.
The one that gets his hand bitten off.
Yes.
The alligator. I love his outfit. He's got like a little like boat patch and everything. That's perfect.
Yes.
I'm going to be President Loki, I think, 100%.
I can't wait. Take pictures.
I will. Don't worry. It'll be, or, I could, if I was really ambitious, I would change throughout Halloween. It would just be different variants.
Oh, that's cool.
I could do that if I was really ambitious, but more likely I'll be President Loki and I'll just get a little alligator doll.
There you go.
And I'll have my little alligator Loki with me.
Perfect. I like it. Okay, well, that'll do it for today. Sharareh, what a conversation we had. I was awesome on the girl with the red scarf. Like, this is why you're here.
Thank you.
Awesome. But before we call it quits for today, let people know where they can keep up with you and your happenings.
Honestly, just find me in the Twitterverse at Sharareh Drury. You can find me there, DM me there, send me alligator Loki gifs. All good.
All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at WhySoBlue.com. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But until then, always remember to keep your keep the positivity in your online film chatter.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.